and the rest of Apex picking up their first series victory of the split so far, 2-0 over NRG, so they're going to be very happy about that. We brought it up at the beginning of the day. Although this is a new team, this is a new organization in the LCS with Apex, there's a lot of experience on this roster. And I think of all things that were evidenced through this series today is that they have that experience. When they did have those leads, they were able to close it out in the 2-0, and they got the work done. Of course, there will still be some work to be done within the organization itself and how they begin to evolve as a group of 5. But it's very clear that Keane, Xpecial, Apollo and Ray, as well as Shrimp even, looked rather comfortable playing on the LCS stage.
Right, I think, you can see that, especially in how both games kind of started with their top lane, not necessarily falling behind, but getting picked on a little bit by the focus of Quas and Santorin. He dies, and they're not frazzled. Even when it flips to the other side of the map and some other people start dying, you see that they're still calm. They go out, they still contest objectives, they turn fights, and there's no panic in them at all.
Yeah, you could see like the mechanics within the top laners were slightly outclassed and Quas underperforming slightly. Ray still held his own. He didn't crumble, and used to be in the LPL.
Yeah, absolutely. And although I do want to actually flip to the other side of that matchup real quick, because Quas already been kind of a point of some criticism towards NRG in that we have this expectation of Quas coming out of the LCS the last time we saw him as being one of the top laners in North America. Here, though, not necessarily living up to that name. Seems like his time away from League of Legends, professional League of Legends at that, has maybe degraded his ability a little bit. Will say, however, Vladimir looked like his best performance. So in this most recent game, Game 2, did look like his best performance. Maybe if they can keep him on, more of those casters, the Swain and the Vladimir for now, they might have a little bit more a success in that regard.
I think they're a team that just needs to find their identity. They struggled all last split with getting one. They never really had something where it's like, oh, this is what NRG is going to do. And when you've been out of the game for a couple months and you come back and you're joining a team that doesn't have an identity, it can just be difficult, because if you just go into a team that has an existing thing, like if you're Biofrost joining TSM, like that's 4 people who were successful together.
Right.
You need to like plug and play basically. And Quas coming to NRG, they weren't like looking fantastic. And so he needs to kind of like figure out not only how he fits in that team, but how that team works anyway.
Well, and he's not the only new member, right? The only returning member is GBM. So on top of bringing in Quas, you're also trying to bring in Santorin, OQ, and Kiwikid. So this is an entire reformation.
Right, exactly.
It's essentially a new 5-man roster.
Yeah, so the communication and synergy are like really, really different compared to the old team. Because in the old team, you had Impact on top lane, and for shot calling, who's going to do it?
Right.
Yeah, that's actually.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a very good question here. I mean, you look at like perhaps Kiwikid, his experience from Dignitas is going to translate, but then of course we have the communication barriers between OQ, GBM, and the rest of the team, and so they definitely have a lot of hurdles ahead of them. With Apex looking a lot more solid, of course, this is only one series, and it is against what looks to be a struggling NRG. So I'm more looking forward to see Apex go up against another opponent. Let's get some more evidence for how this team operates. But I think they'll be very happy with the way they came out swinging in a 2-0 victory to start off their split.
Definitely. They showed up. They're not here. They're not some bottom tier. They proved themselves. They're going to go up against, more difficult competition in the future, and I expect pretty good things from them.
All right, now before we leave this, let's go ahead and jump into some gameplay. We did a lot about the higher level thinking. Let's see how this series actually ended with the game-winning fight as we roll it out here. Shrimp, man, his mastery of Lee Sin, we saw a number of engages from him throughout the game that were rather impressive.
Yeah, and a lot of them ended up being on OQ. It seemed like he had a really off game. He missed a lot of Ashe arrows. He kept getting, picked off in situations like this. So it starts with him getting picked off, and you see Quas get in and get a really big ult, and it looks like it's actually going really well for them, but Keane comes flying in, unkillable, and the tanks,
Swain effect.
Yeah, the tanks kind of take over the fight.
I mean, it was nice to see both the Swain and the Vladimir in the game, at least. And it is actually rather surprising to have seen NRG first pick the Vladimir with the Swain up, so they're opting away from that Swain train and giving Quas the Vladimir instead. So I don't know. We'll see if that. I don't know if that necessarily means they're deprioritizing the Swain or not, or whether they just actually think that Vladimir is the stronger champion.
It could be that Quas had more practice in scrims with Swain, and I mean not Swain, of Vladimir.
Because everyone's banning Swain against
it.
Right?
I'm very unsure how that worked out.
And we were talking about maybe it's a mind game where you take the Vlad because So Apex's red side, they leave up Swain Vlad, and they're going to think that you want the Swain, we'll take the Vlad. And so NRG's like, no, we're taking the Vlad, and maybe we get Swain too because Apex wasn't ready for it. But Apex doesn't let that happen. They take one of the priority picks.
All right, we're going to move ahead to player of the game, and it's going to go once again to Xpecial. 0, 1, and 22 on that Braum. So playing Braum both games today, but again, playing it to a level of mastery, you know, that one would expect out of Xpecial. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, it doesn't necessarily come as a surprise that this guy is the leader of the team and that the Player of the Game award would be extended to him twice in one day.
You get the S+?
I'd have to go back and check the
I
game
I
out. I
don't
don't know
think
if
he got
the
enough
S+.
kills for that.
Yeah, it's like you have to be bloodthirsty as support to deserve it, apparently.
Yeah, you got to do half of your team's damage, get some kills,
It's too
hit every
much
single
stats.
Braum ult,
Yeah.
maybe steal a Baron or two.
But overall, a very solid performance by him. And in his interview, you know, he speaks with a lot of confidence about his team. He spoke about how well-rounded he thought his team was, how well they could adapt to any and all changes that might be thrown into the game. High praise for Ray as a player, saying he could totally hold his own in the tank meta, but would be more than happy to go the way of the carry meta in the top lane and pick up the likes of Riven, Fiora, Jax, and the like. So I would be very curious to see all of that develop as we go. Now, with their wins today, Immortals, Ekko Fox, and Apex all climb up to the top half of the standings. Team Envy and Liquid are still fighting it out on NALCS 1, so we'll need to wait to see which of those teams will join today's other winners at the top. We're through most of the day's games here today, but we've got 4 more killer series coming your way tomorrow. Over on NALCS 2, CTSM face off against Liquid just before Phoenix 1 takes on Immortals. Be sure to tune in to NALCS 1 to catch Apex taking on Counterlogic Gaming, followed by Ekko Fox tangling with Cloud9. All right, that wraps up our coverage on the 2-0 match win here for Apex. We are now going to take you to the series already in progress on NALCS 1 between Team Liquid and Team Envy. Enjoy.